This is your host, Ikechukwu Ndukwu, Diet for Professionals broadcast. Our edition today is professionals and leadership. And we're going to be narrowing on the topic, how to grow into leadership. Wow, leadership is a very important aspect of your professional life. I used to think as a professional, you just need to succeed, make all the money you need to make, build a great career, and go. But that's not correct. In the journey of getting to the peak of your destiny as a professional, you will need to develop leadership. And it's very important. Now, whether, in your family, for example, as a professional, you need to provide leadership, whether as a mother or a father, or you talk about maybe even in your service towards God, because you need to also be involved in ministry as a professional. So you still need to provide leadership. Now, if you also talk in terms of your career proper, in the marketplace, you need to grow into leadership, because if you don't, you will not get to the peak of your career. Let's read that scripture briefly before we continue. Genesis chapter 3 from verse 12. The man said, that's Adam is telling God, the woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me fruit of the tree and I ate. Now, Adam is shifting the responsibility to the woman, because he didn't grow into leadership, but he assumed a leadership position. Because a man, was the first that was created as man, male, before the woman was brought out of his ribs. So, but the truth is, the mantle of leadership was on him. But see the question here, before we go deeply into how to grow into leadership. Well, let's look at it from the importance of leadership. This thing he actually did, in the real sense of it, is the reason for all the problems humanity has. That action he took by what? Outrightly disobeying God's order that he gave to him. The woman was not even there. He was him that it was particular to. The responsibility was on him to what? To make sure he doesn't eat of that fruit. But now he allowed himself, to be influenced by the woman. And look at where humanity is today. And he disobeyed God. That shifting of responsibility is what we want to talk about. Everyone must grow into leadership to fulfill destiny, whether in your career or your business. Now let's go quickly into that. There are benefits to that. If you see, one of the benefits is preservation of the next generation. One of the reasons why we will not be sure of tomorrow or the future is when we don't have leadership now. The more scarcity of leadership we have in Africa, for example, the more we cannot predict the future. But what secures the future then is when what? There are leadership that have started manifesting, so that they can transfer the same values, the same things that made them to become leaders to the next generation. So one of the benefits of growing to leadership is because it will help to preserve the next generation. The second one is what? Leadership multiplication. Anytime there is a manifestation of leadership, there is a system already developed for what? Leadership multiplication. The rise of leadership is the rise of more leaders. So the purpose of leadership is to duplicate more leaders, is to what? Create room for the emergence of new leaders. So the more leaders we have, the more multiplication we experience in leadership. The other part is social freedom. Leaders are the ones that navigate the future of mankind. So they go and others follow. They set the pace and others follow. They are like pace setters. They are the ones that break frontiers and draws others to enter. They test the freedom and lead others into that freedom. So you see, for us to have freedom in our society, to also experience social freedom or societal freedom in every area of life, is when leaders start arising, because leaders are problems solvers. Now, the other part is what? Building a healthy society. Great institutions, great businesses, great societies are built by great leaders. A lot of us in Africa want to rush to go to the Western world. It's because there is scarcity of leadership here in Africa. Because of the scarcity of leadership in Africa is making us now, run away from the same Africa that is our place, that we should what? Stay. So great leaders built those Western world, but we want to go there to go and experience those, fine environment, healthy environment, and all that, where you see wonderful social benefits, where the downtrodden and the endangered are taken care of. But here in this part of the world, leadership is very scarce. There's no empathy, nothing. They just run around like selfish people and all that, build a kind of unhealthy society for their people and all that. But the moment leadership starts rising from here, you don't need to go to the Western world. They are not special in any way. All humans are equal. So, but what now separates human from differentiates human from humans is because of what? Their personal development. Personal development is what separates them. So the quality of human capital is what now determines how a society, whether it will be healthy or very unhealthy. If we have quality human capital in a particular place, you will see that whole society will be healthy, because they will build a healthy society. I don't want to overflog that. We're going to go straight to how to grow into leadership, because that is the main focus of today, professionals and leadership. How to grow into leadership. If you see what Adam did, Adam didn't have this touch. That is why humanity was brought into all this trouble. The first key in growing into leadership is discovering leadership. I have found out, I've sat under great leaders who have been teaching on leadership, but there are only few of them that have really looked into this area, because you can't drag, how do they put it, you can't drag is it a goat or whatever, a camel to the stream. You can't, if you drag him there, he will still not drink the water. So the truth is, you cannot produce leadership from someone who doesn't know he's a leader. So the first stage of growing into leadership is leadership discovery. You must discover that leadership in yourself. You must discover that leadership, because if you don't discover leadership in yourself, my God, you even if you start going to the next stage, which I'm going to go into right now, it will not produce a balanced and a complete leader. I've seen a lot of people who discovered leadership too and started jumping into it. They end up becoming crisis leaders, because you can discover leadership, but if you don't go to the next stage, which I want to talk about, you will be a crisis leader. But if you go into the next stage of leadership I want to talk about and not discover leadership in yourself, the truth is that what? You will end up becoming a follower. Because you see, there are a lot of people who have gone to the second stage I want to talk about, and they end up becoming what? Followers. So anybody who is a leader, raising leaders or trying to raising leaders, and the people that you are raising have not discovered the leadership in themselves, you are only raising followers. You are not raising leaders. The person must discover leadership in himself, because the touch of that is that it will help the person to know the platform. You will have the understanding of the platform of leadership, where you should use your leadership, and the type of leader that you are, and your assignment. So these are a lot of things that leadership discovery will help you to do. But we're going to go secondly into the second one, which is talking about leadership development. Because after discovering leadership, if you don't develop or train yourself in leadership, you will become a crisis leader. That you discover leadership, you discovered a problem and you went ahead solving it, does not necessarily mean that you will end up well. But when you are a trained leader, you will not make mistakes because you have been trained. You have gone through apprenticeship and you have been trained into leadership. It helps you to become very effective. Effective leaders are trained leaders. Leaders who know what to do and how to go about it. There are a lot of things to, areas to train people in leadership, but that's we're not going to elaborate on that because of time. But one fundamental one is what? In leadership development is character development. Very important. Also competence. A lot of areas to work on. But there are so many areas to work on to be able to become an effective and a trained leader. Then the final aspect to how to grow into leadership is what? Leadership manifestation. Or you say leadership usage. If you have been developed a leader and you are not using your leadership, you are not leading your leadership. For me, I call it governance. Because you see, if you are not involved in governance or dominion, you have been trained as a leader, but you are not experiencing dominion. You are not governing. You are not using your leadership. You are not manifesting your leadership. What happens is that you will just be it's like someone who after eating will not go to the toilet. You will die of constipation. That potential called leadership that you discovered, that you trained, must be deployed, must be used, must be manifested. And how is it used? What is it used for or deployed for? Is for governance, is for dominion. So every professional has a potential to become to walk in dominion, has the potential to govern. So your career is not just meant to be a local one. You are meant to govern with it. You are not just meant to rise to the peak of your leadership to just be there. You are meant to govern with it. You are meant to rule with it. If your leadership is not involving governance or dominion, or you are not using it, then it becomes useless to the society. Your leadership is meant to be used. And when it is used, that is when more leaders will be inspired into leadership. More followers will be inspired into leadership. People who have not discovered that they can do certain things, when they see you doing certain things, they will be motivated to go ahead and do theirs. Leaders are released when leadership starts getting involved in governance or dominion or using their leadership. So when you use your leadership, you give birth to other leaders. I'm going to be ending here in this edition of Diet for Professionals, which focuses on professionals and their leadership. And we actually narrowed on the topic, how to grow into leadership. Thank you for listening to us. Join us in the next edition as we wrap it up today. Don't forget to share this message so that more people can get updates, and follow us, like us, and on that page, Diet for Professionals broadcast by Ikechukwu Nduku on YouTube. Thank you. See you next time.